Investors, hello. This is Stock AI Insights Market Pulse, your chief AI analyst. Just a quick reminder, this is for educational reference only, not investment advice, because investing always involves risk. Today, we need to talk about a really dramatic day on Wall Street. It was a day that started with a bang and ended with a total bust. We saw a stunning reversal, where a mountain of fantastic news got completely swallowed up by this undercurrent of fear. So let's dive in and figure out what on earth was driving this wild ride.
So to really get what happened today, here's how we're going to break it down. First, we'll look at all that good news that set the stage this morning. Then, we'll get right to that shocking moment where everything flipped. And finally, we'll unpack the 3 big anxieties that were really pulling the strings behind the scenes. All right, let's look at the damage for Thursday, November 20th. It was a sea of red, no doubt about it, with the NASDAQ getting hit the hardest, down over 2%. But here's the thing. These final numbers, they don't even begin to tell the real story. The real drama, the incredible volatility, all happened midday. Okay, let's rewind the clock to the opening bell. The mood was electric. Everything was lining up perfectly for a huge rally. We had this trifecta of just incredible news that should have sent the market soaring. First up, the main event. Nvidia. The AI giant reported earnings, and they absolutely crushed it. We're talking record-breaking revenue of over $57 billion. That's not just a beat, that is smashing expectations.
And then you had the CEO, Jensen Huang, just pouring gasoline on the fire. He came out and basically said, all that talk about an AI bubble, forget it. Demand for our new chips is off the charts. And the market? Oh, it ate it up, at least for a little while.
And it wasn't just tech. At the exact same time, we got a huge signal about the American consumer from none other than Walmart. They also crushed their earnings. And more importantly, they raised their forecast for the entire year. The stock just took off. And here's the interesting part of their story. The CEO, Doug McMillon, said they were seeing more and more higher-income families coming in to shop. The takeaway for the market was, wow, the consumer is strong from top to bottom. And if all that wasn't enough, that delayed September jobs report finally dropped, and boom, hiring was more than double what anyone expected. So on paper, this was another stellar piece of news to add to the pile. So now we get to the turning point. You've got this perfect setup, right? Blowout earnings, a strong consumer, hot jobs. The market should have flown. And it did, for a bit. And then everything just fell apart.
And this is the central mystery of the day, isn't it? How could a morning that started with so much promise end in such a brutal sell-off? What went so horribly wrong?
Just look at this chart of the NASDAQ. It gives you whiplash just looking at it. The index was up over 2.5%, and then it completely reversed course to close deep in the red. We're talking a nearly 5% swing from the high to the low. That wiped out all the morning's gains and then some.
The Dow saw the same dizzying reversal. It was up more than 700 points at one point, and then, bam, it just collapsed. That created a massive swing of over 1,100 points from top to bottom. For anyone in the market today, it was a gut punch. All right, so to solve this puzzle, let's start with the day's main character, Nvidia. Because what happened with its stock is a perfect little paradox that explains so much about the market's strange mood. This slide really lays it all out. On the left, you've got the news, which was flawless. You could not ask for a better report. On the right, you have the market's reaction. The stock jumped 5% at the open, and then sellers just came in and hammered it all the way down to close negative. This is a classic sell the news event. It tells you investors were just looking for an excuse to take profits. Okay, the second piece of the puzzle, the American consumer. Because that amazing report from Walmart, well, it was kind of hiding a more complicated and uneven reality. We often talk about a K-shaped economy, and today was a perfect picture of it. Just think of the letter K. One arm goes up, that's the wealthier households who are doing fine, but the other arm goes down, and that represents the lower and middle income families who are really starting to struggle. And you could see this divide so clearly when you looked past Walmart. Other big retailers, like Target, Home Depot, and Lowe's, were all sounding the alarm. They're all saying the same thing. Our customers are stretching their budgets thin, and they're getting worried. So that strong consumer story, it wasn't the whole story. And that brings us to the final and most important piece of this puzzle, fear. Because at the end of the day, all those positive headlines were no match for the anxiety that was brewing just beneath the surface. So let's unpack what was really driving the sell-off. It was really a perfect storm of three things. First, that great jobs report. It was ironically bad news for the market. A strong economy means the Fed is much less likely to cut interest rates, and that spooked investors. Second, the crypto market took a nosedive, signaling a broad risk-off mood. When Bitcoin falls, it means investors are scared and dumping their riskiest assets. And finally, with all this uncertainty, traders just decided it was time to cash in their chips on the year's biggest winners, especially in AI and tech.
So, here's the crucial point. On this day, the big picture completely overwhelmed the small picture. This powerful cocktail of fears about the Fed and the economy proved far stronger than even blockbuster earnings from a giant like Nvidia. The big, scary macro story won the day.
Pulse verdict: good news simply wasn't good enough to fight a rising tide of fear. And that leaves us with the critical question: was this just a one-day blip, or is this a sign that the market's incredible AI-fueled rally is finally running out of steam? Welcome to Share Your Thoughts and Comments. See you in the next episode.